okay? It's made by Christie Medical. It's a nice little product. It's very easy to roll around. A lot of times I have people say like, oh, I want a handheld version. There is a handheld version, but this is much easier to use. Now to get the reach, you have to actually pull this button down and then it can reach out. So the idea is if I wanted to work on this side of the bed, I could put it on the other side of the bed and I can reach anywhere from the foot all the way up to the head. I'm gonna have plenty of room, right? And it's all gonna be hands-free, and ideally it's not in my way when I'm working. And that's why it's such a nice unit to use. It's also really hard to drop it or have it walk out the door, right? So people tend to really like it. All the control buttons are here. I'm going to show you what they do. I don't expect you to remember them. So what I have done is I have made up, hard to move because I locked the wheels, is I've made up like a little list here. So it sort of shows you what each one of the buttons does, what all the different modes are, and how they work. On the back, I talked a little bit about why, because I think a lot of times we get told to do things or asked to do things or suggested, right, lists are looking at buying a new piece of equipment for you, and it's really nice, it's cool, but why use it, right? So it's really important to understand why, and that's so that we can have higher success rates. Patients don't like being stuck, and if you have a difficult IV, you get that faster, maybe you make a 2-year break. In addition to, there's always that better care for patients thing. So to turn it on, you have a button here, and it's battery powered. The battery's low because I haven't charged it in a while. I did charge it a little bit when I first got here, but not much to make much of a difference. So we just turn it on like that, and it takes like 5-10 seconds, and we're going to come on. So the first thing, if you look at this sheet, this tells you the very first thing you want to do is make sure that you're perpendicular, right? I don't want to be looking at her hand at some sort of a weird angle. I want to be, perpendicular to it. So I bend her hand, I want to bend this, right? And I always want to kind of try and keep it perpendicular. The second thing I want to do is make sure it's in focus. So if you see these words on the side, if they're nice and clear, I'm in focus. If I get too close, I'm not in focus anymore. All right? If I get too far away, I'm not in focus. So I want to make sure they're nice and clear. And the reason that's important is for a couple reasons. One is because you get your best image. And the other is that all your veins are going to be accurate for size. So now I can look at this vein, and you see like the vein might be so wide, but then there's that brighter channel down the center. That's your inside lumen. So your veins look beautiful, but they're tiny. Don't let anybody put big catheters in here, right? So you want to take a look, and you want to see where things are. So what you want to do is look, just make sure you're not going over a joint, right? Look to see which ones look nice and straight. And then you want to be able to pinch them off, and then you can do things like strip them, and you can say, well, it looks like there's a valve right there, which is no surprise because there's a bifurcation. So a lot of times without this, you might look and find that vein, no problem, but you don't realize there's a valve or a bifurcation right in the middle, even though this lady looks like an easy poke, right? And you look at them and you realize they're kind of tiny veins too, so we might want to be looking elsewhere. And that's what it does, is it gives you the opportunity to look elsewhere. And you're going to be able to see everything up to about 10 millimeters deep. Your arm is feeling a little cold, so they might be a little bit deeper. Nothing changes in the way you do it, right? Like you're still going to want to use a tourniquet. If nothing's like showing up near the surface, you're still going to want to put a warm compress on there, same as you would normally, to try and help bring that things up, right? Everything stays the same. Let's see if we can get some here. Now another one that's kind of nice to look at, I like to show, is this one here. Because a lot of times this one won't show up as well as it should. That's not 10 millimeters deep, even if she is a little bit cold. Why isn't it showing up well? Well, what happens is the way this works is it uses near-infrared light. So the near-infrared light is shone onto the hand, and then it bounces back. Where there's hemoglobin, it's absorbed, so less bounces back. It takes that information, creates a digital map, and beams it back. Now, what happens though is if you have a narrow and a curved surface, some of that light gets diffracted over here, that near-infrared, so it doesn't get as much information as it should. So what you can do is if you have a narrow curved surface like this, or say a PED, then if you put your hands on either side and sort of cup it a little bit, you help more of that near-infrared light get back to the sensor, and you get a better image, right? So I can get a better look as to like where things are going, right? And I can look up. And now I can do is I can strip the vein, and I can say, where is the valve? It's up there somewhere. Oh, it looks like a valve is right there, okay? So now I know she has a valve right there. I bet you didn't know that, did you? But you do now. So now let's see if we find any others. Because if there's any others, there's not. So you have that long a stretch in a guy, there's probably going to be a valve there, right? Because guys tend, I say tend, to be more valvy. Sometimes the ladies are just as valvy or more. Sometimes the guys have very few. But on a general rule of thumb, guys tend to be more valvy, right? So you want to take a look. So if that's a beautiful stretch, and it's a decent looking sized vein. So now you have a good site to go. And you know, that might be one that you wouldn't have gone for before. So it's all part about getting more information so you're making better choices. Now there's other things you can do as well. So say you're looking over here, and because these ones are a little deeper, probably she's a little bit cool, so they're sunk back a little bit more, we can try different things. Like I can try inverting the image like this, okay? That's not helping a lot. I can try playing with the contrast. That's not helping a lot, okay? And I can try a different color, because maybe a different color is going to work, or maybe inverting it with a different color. You know, so you can try playing with the modes to see if one mode gives you a little better image than the other, so you can make a better choice. I mean, none of them are making a huge difference for her, but sometimes they'll make a big difference, right? Oh, look at that. Okay, where's the 18? Anyway. 16, yeah, there's 14, you know. Like, cruelty just goes up here, right? And you can even see the valve there, right? Okay, I'm gonna go back to the green light because it's my favorite. So if you're looking at a vein and you're like this, okay, what happens is the temptation is gonna be like, well, I wanna start this one here. You're probably not gonna do this when you use the one down here. But say you wanted to start here. You see how anything between the light and the skin causes reflection? That tends to be really distracting. So say I wanna start it there. What I recommend is you move it over like this, and you start on the outside edge of the box and you aim for the center, okay? It's a lot less distracting, you're gonna see things. Now what's neat is that you're going in like this on this vein, and as you go in, you see that vein suddenly is off to the side a little bit. Well, if you haven't moved, the vein has. So now you're able to see it rolling in real time. How many times do you wish you could have seen that, right? Okay, I remember doing, I'm on RT, so doing, you know, those arterial pokes. I hated after they rolled, right? Or vasoconstrict. And they disappear on you. That was fun too. But at any rate, so now you can see it. So if I see it and it rolls off the side, I'm gonna be working the outside edge of the box here. I'm gonna like pull back, and now it moves, you know, maybe adjust just a touch and move ahead. Now I've got that as opposed to going for another poke, right? Big difference. And saved you some time. Catheter costs only a few bucks, but you add a few bucks up thousands of times, and then suddenly it's a lot of money, right? Now the other thing I want to show you is because of that reflection thing. So if I go off to the side like this, and I'm looking, you see when you get into fossa here, what happens is you get a bit of shadowing from this, just like something in here. And so it looks like there's a vein, but there's not, right? It's one of the reasons you always want to be perpendicular. It's, you know, like sometimes your hands aren't that bony, dear, but some of these young ladies and young men, or old ladies and old men, right? And you have like the really skinny hands, and you got these nice bones, and is in like this, and you look at it from an angle, it looks like you got great bone or veins there, and they're not when you pull them around and look at them straight on, right? So always make sure you're looking straight on. Other things that can cause problems is if you get somebody who has hair on their arms. I think I'm a little more hairy than you guys, so I'll use my arm.
But not our patients.
Yes. So if you get hair, again, you get that reflection thing going on. So again, if I go to the lower contrast is called universal, high contrast is called fine. I would like to say high and low, but I didn't get the pick, okay? So anyway, if I go to universal, you get less reflection from the hair, and sometimes if there's only a moderate amount of hair, you can see through it a little bit easier. If there's too much hair, you're just gonna have to shave it. I'm like a borderline, right? So you can usually see through it, but today, you know, none of my veins are really showing. Oh, maybe a little bit there, right? So you just take a look that way. Other things where it's not going to be able to see is any of you have like a tattoo like on an arm or something easy to see? No? Okay, the last bunch did. It doesn't, the ink from the tattoos interferes with the near infrared. So if you find your coworker who has a tattoo, you know, that they can show you, and you put it over, it looks kind of cool, but you know, you can't see a vein through it. You'll see veins will go up to them like a half inch away, they'll start to disappear. And it's just because the ink interferes with it. So the guys that have body sleeves, dang.
I do.
Oh, you have a tattoo. Okay, yeah. Okay, so tattoos, they look cool, right? They kind of glow. And you move the VeinViewer just a touch, and they even move, and they kind of dance a little bit, you know? And they look great, but you're not going to see any veins through it. And if you see, hang on, see if you can find a vein around it. You got a vein going near it. What'll happen is that they'll come up, and then like a half inch away, like right here, have you got a nice one? No. let's go for the higher contrast so you can see a little better. So yeah, you see your veins get up and like about a half inch away, they just kind of totally disappear. But the tattoo looks cool. So, you know, scar tissue, it doesn't like scar tissue. So if you have a patient that has like a really bad burn on their arm, you're not going to see through it. But at the same time, the thing is that means they probably have fewer sites, and so vein preservation is even more important. So even if they look easy on the other ones, you might want to consider pulling it out because you don't want to be ruining the few sites they have left. If your battery gets low enough, you're going to get blue light to come on saying you should plug me in sometime soon. Okay, normally your battery is good for about 2 hours of battery or runtime when it's running. If it's unplugged and it's not running, you get about a day or two out of it. So other functions I'm going to try and show you before it like disappears or shuts off on me.
See mine?
Yes.
I'm just curious to see. I've got bad veins, they tell me. Oh, maybe not terrible.
No, you might not have bad veins. You might just be a difficult poke. I'm not sure those are always synonymous, right? They're just hard to find. But see, there's like a valve, right?
Yeah.
And look, it bifurcates right here. So you know you're going to want to start there, and you got to end before there. You go like a half inch either way, and you know that might be a failed IV, right? And that's kind of like where just that little bit of information becomes good. But you're kind of like me, like you got lots of bifurcations here, right? And so they're going to be a little bit tougher to get in. And that's again just comes to having more information. You can pull your arm up, sleeve up a little more. We'll take a look, see if there's anything else, right? Oh yeah, like look at that one. Nice, it's big. Oh, wait a second. You have a valve right in the center there, right? So see, you know, like I say, guys tend to be more valvy, but that doesn't mean that the ladies don't have them, right? So you got one right in the middle, usually short stretched like that. I'd expect probably not going to be a valve, but in your case they do.
They're all very twisty.
Yeah, and then they're a little bit tortuous, right? So it's that's the other thing, is trying to find like a straight stretch, right? But you find the straight stretch, you know where the valves are, and it becomes a whole different story. So it's just a matter of knowing where you want to go. There's a valve there. Where else we got valves? Well, I don't know if you want an IV there, but you know, you got a decent stretch there, right?
I'll
For
have to
decent
remember
sized
if I
veins.
ever
So
need
yeah, again, it's all about getting
right?
more information, right? And it works. It doesn't thread the catheter for you. It'll show you up to about 10 millimeters deep. It'll show you veins, okay? 3 to 7 millimeters is where you're gonna get your best image. Sometimes a vein, you be closer and you might not see it. It's because it has a hard time with that connective tissue. It's why it won't show you through scars, right? So if you have, say, a vein that's, so that's why you can't see an artery. Everyone always like an RT, everybody wants an artery. Arteries have too much connective tissue, so you can't see them, okay? Every once in a while, I'll see what looks like an artery. It's pulsing, usually down here at the radial one. I figured because it's right next to the radial nerve, and it's probably pushing the radial nerve, or radial vein, I should say. And the radial vein looks like it's pulsing. Just lest I take a chance. That might be the vein, it might be the artery. If you see it pulsing, go somewhere else. If you have free blood, so say you have like bruising, you can see bruising or free blood up to 15 millimeters deep. You can see it deeper than you can the veins because no connective tissue.